Well, welcome back. We're just kind of rocking it out a little bit in the studio here because joining us is a journalist, and this lady has won a number of awards writing about music for magazines like Billboard and Rolling Stone, and she's now launched a completely new venture which centers on the goodness in the people around her and their ventures and what they're doing. So welcome to What She Said, Karen Bliss. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. Great karma. Great karma this morning.
So tell us how the whole thing came to be. How did you start?
Well, I've been a music journalist for a very long time. And, it took me a while. I'm self-employed, so always, been freelance, and it's tough. So I was pretty self-centered and self-absorbed, as many kind of creative types are. And then basically what happened was some musicians, and some of them friends of mine, the more successful they became, they would go with War Child or World Vision to developing countries and come back with these life-changing stories. I wanted to somehow make a difference, but I'm not famous, I'm not rich, I'm not a doctor. I would pitch these stories to some of the publications that I work for, and they either weren't interested or they'd say, oh, give me 400 words. I'm like, but they just went to Sierra Leone and learned about blood diamonds and are never going to wear diamonds again. And they held children with amputated limbs, but no one really cared. And I thought, at the same time, also the TMZs and the Perez Hiltons were really dominating. I guess they probably still do. And it drove me crazy. Like, I just don't know why people are interested in that type of news, who got plastic surgery or has cellulite or who broke up with who or who's pregnant or cheating. And I was like, surely there's other people like me that want to hear about the cool things that people are trying to do to make a difference.
Well, there's us.
That's
why we started the show. I mean, that's why we started what we're doing, was because we figured that we needed to interview and inform and inspire, and talk about women, in particular women, although we love men, to talk about women and because Canadians don't blow their own horns. And there's a whole lot of inspiration out there. So you start, now when did you launch it?
I did launch it a while ago, and it had a totally different format because at the time, I didn't want it to be music heavy.
Right.
I wanted it to be a separate thing. The logo at the time said Samaritan, and there was a little man in the place of the eye. And I was also learning, like, the fact that I can even post stories, Photoshop is a bit of a miracle. And plus, I had to build up the content. After a while, it just got so music heavy because when I interview people, at the end, I'll tell them about the site and ask them if there's any causes that they support. Now, more so, I'm doing interviews for the magazine. But all my writers were music journalists, too, so it just became really music heavy. It's not all music, but I changed the whole branding of it to the skull with the halo.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like the skull with the halo. What does the skull mean? What does that mean?
Rock and roll.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So was the world lacking this publication?
I feel it is. There's tabloids dominate on television, on entertainment shows. And it's not good news. It's actually bad news. Like, people say, oh, you've got a good news site, but it's not. These are not good things, but they're good people, I hope, trying to make a difference. Like, I have disclaimers all over the thing because, once or twice a year we hear about, some embezzlement going on or someone having huge salaries, and I don't want to get involved with that. Like, I'm not vetting charities. I'm writing more about the people behind them.
Right. But, the gossip magazines, they sell. So are you noticing a change in the appetite for this kind of information? That more people want to hear about the good stuff? I do.
I mean, it's tough, like to be a standalone online magazine, not part of a huge portal, a Yahoo, a Canoe, MSN and AOL, any of those things. I'm doing most of it myself. I kind of outsource like social media, and I'm just doing lots of meetings and just trying to get word out. People love the site. Like, interviewed Brian Adams a couple of years ago. He has a foundation, and I was doing it for the Juno Award program because he was getting a humanitarian award. But he actually went online while I was on the phone with him, and he was like, "Oh, I'm proud of you," which meant a lot, you know. And although I can't really get an interview with him now because he's not a guy that likes to, you know, toot his own horn. But other people, when they know it's sort of a level playing field on the site, then they don't mind because everyone on there is trying to make a difference. It's not like I've, you know, singled out this one person because it's, you know, it's a bit uncomfortable for people to talk about, you know. I'm
so
great. I'm doing good things.
Yeah. Do you find that music stars are uncomfortable talking about the good things that they do?
Well, I just ask them.
Are they quiet about it?
You know, sometimes I'm interviewing someone and there's nothing really concrete that they support, and other times, like I've had, I interviewed Pete Townsend about his autobiography, and at the end he gave me like another 15 minutes talking about the causes that he supports. That's like great. Nelly Furtado, Billy Talent, Simple Plan, like they love the site.
Kate and I were talking on Friday, I guess it was, about Beyonce, and just out of the blue it came out that she had donated $7 or $8 million
to homeless,
to you know, but who knew? She didn't say anything about it.
Yeah.
So maybe they do try to keep that quiet, or they don't want to look like they're tooting their own horns.
Yeah, but I interview people from all levels, you know, like any artist, but it's not just music. I interview the presidents or executives at major corporations. So yes, they're the big bad corporations, but they're trying to make a difference. So we've done pieces on A&W and Freshie and M&M Meat Shops and Newman's Own.
He was sort of one of the originals, really, wasn't he? Wouldn't you say? Because the salad dressing, all that money on the spaghetti sauce and the salad,
all of it,
everything, goes.
And now there's a CEO, and my writer Kim Hughes, who's a fantastic writer, has been around forever. She interviewed the CEO of Newman's Own, the foundation, and Paul Newman's daughter as well. So we did a great comprehensive piece on that. Our animal stories actually sometimes do better than if we write about One Direction and Simple Plan.
Why is that? Why do cat stories on Facebook? I mean, you know, it's like it's everywhere. People love it. There's nothing you can do. Or the returning dog, like the dogs for returning warriors. There's only so many of those I can take. I mean, yes, they're nice, but enough already. You know, I want to see something else. So tell us, what role do you think, in general, journalists play in promoting social responsibility?
I mean, this is just a personal thing for me because honestly, I have the best job in the world. I listen to music for a living and talk to people for a living,
right?
You know, about music. It's not really contributing in any worthwhile way to society, but I wouldn't change it because it's ridiculously fun, you know. Like, oh, I have to go to a concert tonight. Sorry, I can't get together for dinner. I mean, it's a bit ridiculous, right?
So, but I mean, what you're doing. So, you obviously were moved to do it. So, what do you think? How do you have a whole lot of journalists that are now adding your magazine onto the end of their interviews, right?
Yeah, or they're actually now I'm assigning stories and they do it specifically for Samaritan Mag. You know, I give them the choice of what they want to cover. It could be sports, it could be a corporation they love, it could be yoga, it could be cats, you know, whatever it is. And they love it because they're talking to these people who are either changing lives themselves or, you know, they've been affected. Like I had to interview Nelly Furtado for a Billboard like videoed piece, and while I was waiting around, the assistant for the person that was filming it, I was just telling her about Samaritan, and she told me that she does henna designs on the bald heads of women going through chemo or that have alopecia. And we did a story on it, and they're gorgeous designs, stunning. And so this was probably a year and a half or 2 years ago. And then I saw her about a month or two ago, and she said the story went viral, and it grew from having 7 artists to 150. And I don't know, it was just really touching to know the effect that story had. And if you see the pictures, they're unbelievable. You know, no one has to wear a wig. They've just got these gorgeous henna designs.
And yet we would never have known that she did that unless You had taken it.
Yeah.
Taken it everywhere.
And after that, I decided to just Google on a whim. I heard that if you're going through chemo, your nails turn black. I'm not sure if that's true, but you can't wear toxic, products. So I thought, I wonder if there's a spa that caters to women going through chemotherapy. And there was one in Canada, and I assigned it to one of my writers, and I remember distinctly the person who started it said something like, I long for the day when we go out of business.
Yeah, really, that's true. We have to take a break, but we are going to come back on the other side and talk a little bit more with Karen Bliss, who is the publisher and editor-in-chief at Samaritan magazine, as well as being an award-winning journalist for magazines like Billboard and Rolling Stone. So stay with us here at What She Said on Sirius XM 167. We'll be right back. Welcome back to What She Said. We are here, Christine and Kate, with Karen Bliss, who is the publisher and editor-in-chief. That's such a great title, editor-in-chief.
I gave it to myself.
It's okay. I made myself chief financial officer. I'm a CFO.
I'm executive producer.
SamaritanMag.com. Now, this is an online magazine that covers the good deeds and efforts of Samaritans, individuals, charities, small businesses, anyone trying to make a difference in the world. So tell us some of your favorite stories.
Well, besides the henna one
which you just did.
Talked about, I don't know if you remember, there was a kitten that was left for dead in a McDonald's parking lot around Christmas time about 2 years ago. Crushed hind legs, just an atrocious story. And we followed that because people were donating money for its surgery, and someone donated something called a canine cart, which I had never paid attention to or knew existed. Those wheels, like
absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Wait.
So we did a piece on that, and it went crazy. And I thought, well, even though it's a for-profit company, why don't I write about that company? Because the site's not only about charities, it's just someone trying to make a difference. So anyway, it turns out that this company has sold canine carts to not just canines, but people with chickens that are disabled or, sick, and horses, and you name it. And it was just such a great, fun story.
But in this particular case, they donated it, right?
In the case of the kitten, yes.
Yes,
but if you have like an injured animal, you can purchase.
Where the hind legs are going, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like a one cart fits all.
Right.
They're certain weights, and I don't know, it's just like this whole process, which is, I thought it was pretty cool.
So when you're talking to stars, like you said, like the thing about Nelly Furtado just came out. So when you bring it up in conversation, are you surprised at some of the things that people tell you that they're involved in?
I'm not surprised. I'm more surprised when there's nothing.
Really?
But sometimes I understand because they're trying to build a career. So they're single-minded and they're focused. And also they don't want to jump on something. And also if it's a band, perhaps one of them has, a parent with Alzheimer's, another with cancer, one with Parkinson's, or, so they have to come together typically as a unit. Like Simple Plan has a foundation. They store any story on Simple Plan, their fans go crazy. Jack Johnson has two foundations, one of which has raised $25 million. I just interviewed Larry King, which was amazing for me, interviewing,
what was that like? Tell us about that.
He was great. He really was. Like, I actually ran it as a Q&A because I couldn't have improved on what he said, but we were talking about his cardiac foundation. Fran Dresser, I recently interviewed. Again, I ran that as a Q&A, and that was about her cancer schmancer. And then there's just other artists that, might not be as well known that might have something. I also have a product of the month. The one for this month, I went to, there's a video production company called The Field, and they hold a big party before the Much Music Video Awards each year. And there was a booth there with this gorgeous jewelry, stunning jewelry. Not just for, not just necklaces and earrings, but like for the shoulder and for the leg, just really unique.
Angelina Jolie, are you listening?
Unique and beautiful. And the person who designed it was there.
Right.
14 years old. She was there with her mother and her sister, who's maybe a year or two older. And so not only, I mean, she's so talented. And they also have a charity called, I believe it's called Girls Helping Girls. And the sister had started it. And 50% of the net proceeds go to this charity. And that's, they had gone to, I believe, Kenya as a family. And the eldest daughter had decided to start this charity to help send girls, you know, for education and better their lives. So I've been in coffee shops where the internet hasn't worked, and I've been there powwowing with like Kim Hughes about, you know, story ideas, and we can't get anything done because, you know, your life is lost when the internet is not working. And I just said to the waitress, like, do you know anyone who has a charity? And they're like, oh yeah, our manager has something. And it was called Dude. He threw these parties with his buddies from, you know, that he used to go to school with, and each kind of party, the money would go to a certain charity. So I like interviewed him right there on the spot on my iPhone and got his story.
Do you find, Karen, that there's any difference in age groups? I mean, that people that are younger are more philanthropic? Because I find that I find that attitude more prevalent in younger people, but not always, right?
Not always.
I mean, you look at the Melinda Gates and you look at the Warren Buffetts and you look at people like that, but young people are hugely
yeah, and it's great to see. And typically, I think with musicians, if they're putting out an album and they're starting to get some traction, someone in that camp like we'll talk to them about, you know, a charity to get involved with. And in Canada, with Free the Children, War Child, World Vision, those are three biggies that a lot of musicians get involved with. World Vision has a program called Artist Associates Program, and they get tour support from World Vision. But what they have to do is have a table at their shows, and they have to, from the stage, I guess, mention World Vision. But, you know, it's not selling out, or like, I know they're getting money, but that's a cool thing, because initially with World Vision, I was hesitant to write about them because I thought maybe they go in with a Bible in one hand and food in the other, and I don't want to support an organization like that. But the artists that I spoke to, I think back then it could have been David Usher or Tom Cochrane, like said, no, that's definitely not the way they work.
But when you think about it, when we think about floods and tornadoes and Haiti and all kinds of big, you know, big events that have devastated regions of the world, and then we've seen a group of artists come together and record an album and you know, dedicate the sales to that cause. So, I mean, I think the music industry certainly has been hugely philanthropic and hugely, I think, vocal about giving back.
Yeah. And that, I guess, stems back to, you know, probably the 50s and into the 60s, you know, in particular.
Now, you said that you had a dream job. I mean, interviewing, like having to go to concerts. I mean, gee, you know, bummer. So, I mean, it's the kind of job that I'm sure a lot of young people, you know, aspire to. So do you have any advice for students looking to, you know, get into a career in music journalism?
Just do it. I was actually told, and I won't tell you how many years ago it was, but even then I was told, like, oh, don't bother. You know, it's always difficult in any career you're going into, and you have to put in the time. You can't get into the music business if you don't love music. It really is, it's all consuming. You got to get to know the industry, go out and see bands, follow them, watch them grow. You know, I always say I'm in the music industry more than I'm a journalist. You know, because that's my passion and that's why I got into it. So, you know, if you want to be a journalist, that's different. You know, go to school, take, you know, journalism courses and see where it takes you. I couldn't bounce from being a music journalist to being a news reporter to doing film because it's not my interest and it's not my forte. You know, I'm more likely, if I get out of music journalism, to do something in the music business. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you got to work hard at everything you do, you know?
Do you see this spreading into something else, like
Oh, I have
don't know,
big
a teen-
dreams for this.
Oh,
You have
do you?
no idea.
Well, come on, share them.
Honestly, yeah, since I started it, I want to have like an expo, like a symposium where people can go, and there'll be tables where there's products where a portion of the proceeds go to a charity, or maybe it's environmentally friendly. Maybe there's the charities there. Speakers about volunteer vacations or how they started. You know, there's people with, it's called Snooters in Ontario. That's a pig sanctuary. This couple rescues pigs from the slaughterhouse. There's a parrot sanctuary in BC. We've got the donkey sanctuary in Guelph, and there's greyhounds. You know, like, how do these people even start them? You know,
So you could go to this expo and you could say, well, instead of giving this lump sum to whomever I've always given it to, I'm going to go and shop around at the stalls and see where I'd like to put some money that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
Because they're springing up every day.
or volunteer or help, or you know, who knows? Like, something might speak to you. You know?
Okay, so now we've done your symposium. That's one.
The TV show I wanted to do for ages, probably at the same time that I
And the TV
started
show
this.
would be...
Now
What would that look like?
am I giving the public ideas for shows? So, honestly, there's so many great people we've written about. There would be no shortage of content, you know, and it could be put in, there could be one specifically on musicians with foundations. It could be on animals. Like, there's just so many. The cancer one could be the henna heels. It could be the spa. It could be this woman in BC who did these gorgeous sterling silver F cancer bracelets. I know I can't say the word.
No, we can't. Thank you for not saying the word. We're having her on, actually, and we're trying to figure out how we do this. We delicately say F cancer a lot. But there's he's American, but I love this guy. This guy tattoos nipples.
Yes, we've been trying to get him, and Kim's been trying to get in touch with him, and he hasn't responded. I think he's in big demand now.
Yeah, he said he was going to shut it down, and then he found out he's going to shut it down. He didn't want to do it anymore. Then he found out his sister had cancer. But I saw the video that went viral about him, and I thought, like, he said, I'm never going to be able to shut this down, and I wish I could. Same thing, right? I wish I could stop that. But I mean, you can extend all these kind of things. So your balance, how do you balance your work and this? Do you think the Samaritan will take over?
I'll never give up music journalism. I mean, it's just great. But also, I couldn't because I'm writing about musicians, I have access to them. Not as many as I would like. You know, I tried to get Lady Gaga because she has a foundation and charity is so important to her, and reaching out to the LGBT community, but I just cannot get an interview with her. You know, and that happens a lot with the bigger artists because the record companies are concerned just with selling albums, and she's not doing any interviews right now, or it's not about the album, and it's just really tough. Because when I do talk to the artists and they know about the site, they want to talk about the causes that are important to them. They don't want to talk about like what they decided to wear. Well, Lady Gaga probably does, but other people don't necessarily.
No, but I mean, to be fair to her, though, she's been pretty good about empowering youth. I mean, I think
it's amazing.
Various classrooms have sent her, a videotape, and then she's shown up, or she sent a video back, and
well, she loves her little monsters. Right?
Yeah, what she's doing is fantastic. She has. It's called the Big Brave Bus, I believe, which just parks outside her concerts. It never came up to Canada. For some reason, it didn't cross the border on her last tour. But it's got counselors on it, apparently, and kids that are having issues can go on and talk, and it's confidential, and I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think she really cares and does give back. And everybody has a choice to do it in whatever way they want to.
That's true. Well, it is SamaritanMag.com. SamaritanMag.com. So everyone should go and check it out. And we'll put up a link on our website to your website. We'll,
Thank
do
you.
that, all that kind of stuff. Thank you very much for coming in, Karen Bliss.
Thanks.
It was
for
lovely to
having
talk
me.
to you. Thank you for being here.
Yes.
I mean, just for existing. This is great.
Oh, thank you. I'll tell my parents.
What an empowering lady and concept.
Yeah, and we look forward to your event.
Yeah.
Your day-long show. Weekend-long show. All right.
I'm going to buy jewelry there.
We will be right back here at What She Said on Sirius XM 167. Stay with us.